In this video, I want to explain the most important voice leading rules using some examples. By practicing with these rules, making mistakes and discussing corrections with your teacher, they will come to life. Whenever you start writing for strings, horns or vocals, you will benefit from it in various styles. You will also notice that your hearing will improve, since this is about subtle details. I prepared the assignments in Logic Pro. The voices have a different sample and are slightly panned so that you can follow the individual lines a bit better. With the mouse or with Alt arrows you can move the notes to the right position. The upper voice is red and we call it the soprano. The alto line below that is blue. The tenor is brown and the bass voice is black. In the assignments you are not allowed to change the bass nor the first note of the soprano. The range of the voices or instruments are not yet taken into account in these assignments. You can also use programs like Sibelius or the free Muse score. You just need to enter the given notes yourself. The goal of classical voice leading is minimal motion in the middle voices, making the chords as complete as possible, resolving leading tones properly, and avoiding parallel fifth and octaves. The result will be rich, in tune, and performable. I will discuss the leading tones and parallels in a minute. The middle voices shouldn't move too much, and this becomes clear when I ask you to sing along with the brown or blue lines. The computer has no problems with it, but with human voices this will sound messy and out of tune. Let me discuss the vocabulary of inversions briefly. This is a C major triad in root position. When I move the lowest note an octave up, the third lies in the bass, resulting in the sixth position, aka the first inversion. If I also move the third up an octave, the fifth is in the bass, and that second inversion is called the 6/4 position. The bass tone determines the name. The distribution of the upper notes over the octaves is of no influence. With seventh chords we distinguish root position, 6/5 position, 4/3 position, and 2 position. Two voices can move together in various directions. In equal motion, the voices both go into the same direction, but the intervals can vary. When the intervals stay the same, we speak of parallel motion. The opposite of that is counter motion. Counter motion is the most powerful in voice leading. The final remaining type is oblique motion. One voice moves up or down, the other one stays horizontal. Parallel fifths and octaves are especially disturbing in simple harmonic textures. Due to the many common overtones, they blend so well that the individuality of the voices is lost. Listen how bold and bare parallel fifths sound. Also listen to this short salsa fragment. In the horns you can hear parallel fifth. Para que no me hicieran cuento de lo que estaba pasando, fuimos a todos preguntando cuál era lo... That descending line has this sound in it. Fuimos a todos preguntando. That's a bit ugly. Also disturbing is the so-called hidden parallel, which happens when the outer voices reach a perfect fifth in equal motion. At first hearing, perhaps this doesn't strike you, but when I mute the middle voices, you hear the two lines dropping into a very bold interval. When reached in counter motion, the same interval sounds much better. So this is disturbing, and this is not disturbing. The fifth is a frequency that is already present in the overtones of the root of the chord. Therefore, when the voice leading asks for it, the fifth can be omitted. In the example you just heard, the first chord consisted only of roots and a third. We speak of an incomplete chord when the fifth is not present. When you apply the rules properly, incomplete and complete chords often alternate. However, in the final chord, the fifth is obligatory. At the ending, we want to hear the most complete and balanced sound possible. In that respect, this example is not yet okay. The last chord but one is complete due to the D in G7, while the C chord lacks a fifth. This takes us to the subject of the leading tone. The leading tone is now in the tenor, and it basically has to resolve upward. However, if the leading tone is in the middle voices, it may fall to the fifth. So in the construction with the falling leading tone, it is possible to make both last chords complete. Then a couple of things worth knowing about the seventh. That's actually pretty simple. The seventh has to go down. The F of G7 has to go to the third of the C chord. The C of D minor 7 drops nicely to the third of G7. You also see that the seventh of E minor goes down to the C. That D of E minor 7 doesn't really add a lot to E minor 7, since C and E minor are tertial substitutes, so functionally there's not a lot happening. The only problem is that when I change the D into an E, I create a parallel octave in the lower voices from C to E minor. By the way, sevenths are not obligatory, not even in secondary or primary dominance. In the assignments, you have to insert a seventh when the Roman numeral explicitly has a 7. When the seventh is not specified, you may choose. If you use a seventh, it has to go down. In root positions of triads, you basically double the root. When you see the first assignment, you need a double C on the first scale degree, 2 A's on A minor, 2 F's on F, and on the first G chord, a double G. With inversions of triads, you primarily double the so-called main tones, the first, fourth, and fifth note of the key, which you know as the root notes of the Holy Trinity of tonic, subdominant, and dominant. In practice, this means that with chords in 6 positions, you double the root or the fifth. At the third chord in this example, the main tone C was doubled, but the fifth would also have worked. Triads in 6/4 position often have a passing function or carry suspensions. In both cases, you have to double the bass tone, which is the fifth of the chord. The second chord in this example is just a simple bridge between the two C chords, and the construction has a nice bass line. The 1-6-4 chord is actually a 5 chord with 2 suspensions. The third of G7 comes from above from the 4th, and the 5th comes from 6. If I change the voice leading a bit, I can also send the 6th to the 7th. Furthermore, there is prominent counter motion in this example in the outer voices, and you see a falling leading tone to complete the final chord. In summary, double the root in triads in root position, double the root or 5th in triads in 6th position, double the 5th in triads in 6/4 position. Good luck with the exercises.